This is just crazy to me. I don't understand how we got here. So JD Vance is posting, Steve Witkoff is a great guy doing an incredible job. The people sniping at him are mad that he is succeeding where they failed for 40 years. Turns out a lot of diplomacy boils down to a simple skill. Don't be an idiot. So Steve Witkoff, if you remember when the Trump admin was taking credit for solving the Palestinian-Israeli issue with the ceasefire that has completely fallen apart, by the way, that any smart person knew wasn't going to hold. So this guy is our special envoy to the Middle East. Now, in my opinion, if you work any type of foreign policy job, you should have probably a basic understanding of all the major foreign policy issues at play at the moment. That'd be my guess, right? So stuff related to India, Pakistan, stuff related to China, Southeast Asia in general, obviously things like Taiwan, probably Ukraine, Russia, maybe some South American stuff with like, Maduro and Morales and all that. And obviously in the Middle East, where you specialize in and whatever's going on in Africa, you should probably just know these things. This is your job. At the very least, he should be well versed in Middle Eastern politics. And I would say probably like Taiwan and Russia and Ukraine, because these are like our major foreign policy. I would expect that you would just have that fundamental knowledge. I haven't watched this and I probably won't because it's too much time. This is, apparently they did this show. I'm not being misled, right? This podcast happened a few days ago. This is unbelievable to me. I cannot believe this. I cannot believe this. I can't believe this. I can't.
Just deliver that?
Well, first of all, I think the largest issue in that conflict are these so-called four regions, Donbass,
Yes.
Crimea, the names,
Lugansk, yeah.
Lugansk, and there's two others.
How do you not know the basic names of like territory that's been fought over 10 years now? How can you not know this? Like the Donbass is just a big region. I don't even know if that's like an official thing. It's like, I think it's like in the US, it would be like the Pacific Northwest. That's not like a state. Donetsk and Luhansk they're cities, but they're also like cities are they called oblasts in Ukraine? Like there's the Donetsk Oblast and the Luhansk Oblast. And those are also like the capital cities. Those are both in the Donbass. I don't know. How do you not have any of these things in his head? What the fuck? Like, what is happening here?
They're Russian speaking.
Yep.
There have been referendums where the overwhelming majority of the people have indicated that they want to be under Russian rule.
This is just a total fucking lie also. So now we've moved on from Crimea wanted to be under Russian rule, which was never the case. By the way, which also doesn't even matter. Even if it was the case that 100% of your citizens voted. That's not how borders work. That's not how countries work. That's not how anything works. So even if that was true, it doesn't matter. But it's not true. It's not true. But even if it was true, it doesn't matter. But I like how it's gone from Crimea voted to leave, which, by the way, the only poll that even showed that in the majority was after Russia took over fucking Crimea in 2014. Okay. But even if that was, it doesn't matter. That's just not, territory doesn't work that way. Okay. But now this is expanded to, Donetsk and Luhansk have also voted to leave, and they've wanted to leave the whole time. So this is all just bullshit, but okay.
Yes.
I think that's the key issue in the conflict. So that's the first thing. That when that gets settled.
Also, this is just Russian propaganda. The Russian propaganda line, we don't even repeat the Russian propaganda anymore, but the Russian propaganda was always, in the Donbass, there was a genocide happening where Ukrainians were murdering ethnic Russians in Luhansk and Donetsk.
Терпеть все это было уже просто невозможно. Необходимо было немедленно прекратить этот кошмар. Геноцид в отношении проживающих там миллионов людей, которые надеются только на Россию, надеются только на нас с вами.
That was the Russian line. And the only reason why Russian peacekeepers needed to go into those territories was to save the poor people that were being murdered indiscriminately by Azov and the other Ukrainian Nazis. That's the propaganda line. So him saying that, this war is happening just because of the conflict in those regions that's the Russian propaganda talking point. The conflict in those regions was because Russian invaders, initially it was Russian providing other people with weapons and then just Russian troops just invading, before the formal huge war, This has been happening for 10 years, all right? This is a Russian propaganda talking point.
So that's the first thing. That when that gets settled, and we're having very, very positive conversations.
And Russia controls that. In fact, some of those
very positive conversations I don't know what he's talking about. I thought that this was going to be solved on day one.
Some of those territories are now, from the Russian perspective, part of Russia.
Correct. That's correct. But this has always been the issue.
Right.
And
No? What does he mean by that?
sort of no one wants to talk about it.
What do you mean no one wants to talk about it? What?
That's the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is there are constitutional issues within Ukraine as to what they can concede to with regard to giving up territory. The Russians are de facto in control of these territories.
Yes.
The question is, will they be? Will the world acknowledge that territories?
Yes.
I like how he also says, and I don't know if we're just using words. So I've said this before. I don't know if I've clarified, but de facto means that for all intents and purposes, you kind of are, but you're not on paper. De jure means that you're on paper. From Russia's perspective, they de jure control, I believe they control both those oblasts and more because they formally annexed it as far as Russia is concerned. So they don't de facto control those regions in their eyes. They de jure, they have actual control on paper. They've formally annexed these regions. But I mean, we're just saying whatever words, I guess. So whatever, who cares?
The Russians are de facto in control of these territories.
Yes.
But anyway, there's no shot I would survive watching this whole fucking interview. It's crazy to me that Tucker Carlson is just a full-on Russian stooge sellout, though. That's just crazy to me. Read this excerpt from the interview. It's unreal. I don't regard Putin as a bad guy, Witkoff said, saying it was gracious of the Russian leader to receive him in Moscow for talks earlier this month. What the fuck? That meeting got personal, he said, recalling how Putin had commissioned a beautiful portrait of President Trump from the leading Russian artist, which Witkoff took home to the president. Wait, is this true? Witkoff said also that following the assassination attempt against Trump in September, Putin said that he went to his local church and met with his priest and prayed for Trump, not because he could become the president of the United States, but because he had a friendship with him. Trump was clearly touched by Putin's story and the portrait, Witkoff said. Witkoff implied that resolving the war in Ukraine could lead to cooperation on a broader range of issues, and that the two sides were thinking about integrating their energy policies in the Arctic, sharing sea lanes, collaborating on artificial intelligence, and sending liquefied natural gas into Europe together. Who doesn't want to have a world where Russia and the United States are doing collaboratively good things together, he asked. Jesus. The portrait of Donald Trump Vladimir Putin has presented via Witkoff is indeed painted by Nikos Savranov, Kremlin's loyal painter, 6 weeks ago. Bro.